Good evening and happy holidays. Thank you for signing up for our very first mental health event, How to Cope with Holiday Hope, Stress, and the Holidays. I am Dr. Tanya Randall, the chair of the Physical and Mental Health Committee of Monmouth County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. This is a collaboration between Monmouth County Alumni Chapter and NAMI, which stands for the National Alliance on Mental Health. We're going to get started. First, we have a few announcements. First, we're going to have Sakaya Jordan give us our emergency response team message.
Good evening. I hope that you are all healthy and safe in your own places and spaces during this virtual meeting. However, as with any location in which we meet to conduct Delta business, whether it be in our own homes for virtual meetings and events or physically in some other venue, we must always be Delta ready. Please identify 2 exits in your current location. We must always be assured that there are 2 exits available to us in case of the need for an emergency evacuation. Also, during this post-COVID-19 pandemic, even if you have been vaccinated and boosted, although optional, we encourage you to please continue to wear your mask, wash your hands, and keep a safe walking distance from others. Please continue to be safe and always be Delta ready.
Okay, thank you so much, Sakaya, for that. Next, we will have opening remarks by the president of Monmouth County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So we're Ms. Shanta L. Jackson.
Good evening, Dr. Randall, and thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is my absolute pleasure to extend a warm welcome to each of you to this incredibly important workshop. As an organization of predominantly African American women, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority is uniquely positioned to impact not only the well-being of its membership, but also the families and communities that we serve. Tonight's program is one of the many initiatives we participate in that underscore the importance of promoting self-care and wellness. While the holiday season often brings joy, warmth, and cherished moments with loved ones, it can also be a time that brings its unique set of challenges and stressors. This workshop is a testament to our commitment to addressing these challenges together, and we hope that you will receive information on strategies you can employ to navigate these times with grace and strength. We thank Ms. Walker of the New Jersey chapter of the National Alliance of Mental Illness for partnering with the Monmouth County Alumni Chapter. We hope this workshop will be an empowering platform for learning, as well as a space where we can collectively cultivate resilience and well-being. Thank you, and have a great workshop, everyone.
Thank you. Next, we will have a few rules for the seminar. First, please mute your mics. Next, please hold all questions and comments till the end. If you do have a question, you can put it in the chat and I will moderate the questions at the end once Ms. Walker is finished her speaking. Please put all questions in the chat. There will be a Q&A segment for the questions, like I said, at the end. So if you have a question and want the answer to your question, you'll have to stay to the end of the seminar. Also, if you want to change your view so you only see Ms. Walker, you can hit in your upper right-hand corner, speaker view. I just wanted to let everybody know that. Next, we're going to have Tavia Robinson, who did all the groundwork to put this evening together to introduce our speaker tonight. As I said, later, I will return for the question and answer session. Tavia.
Good evening to everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for this evening, Ms. Melanice Walker, who is a licensed social worker and who has been in the field for over 15 years, specializing in mental health and wellness. She currently works for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, New Jersey, in the Act Now African American Multicultural Program. Act Now African American Community Together Now is NAMI New Jersey's initiative to spread mental health awareness, education, and information to New Jersey's African American community. In that organization, Ms. Walker is the program coordinator of Act Now, co-facilitator of the Central and Southern Region Family Support Group, and advisory committee member. While at NAMI, she received various awards and commendations. Among them are the organization's Certificate of Appreciation for Outstanding Dedication and Contribution, the Multicultural Outreach Award, and the NAMI New Jersey Act Now Program Recognition Award. Melanice has previously worked for the state of Maryland, for the Baltimore City Department of Social Services, Child Protective Services Unit, and the state of New Jersey in their Division of Developmental Disabilities. Melanice holds a master's degree of social work from Temple University and a Bachelor of Social Work from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Melanice worships at Alpha Baptist Church in Willingboro, New Jersey, where she founded and still coordinates the Mental Health and AMP Wellness Ministry to fight stigma and help families dealing with mental illness. She has led numerous workshops, presentations, and classes about mental illness, health, and stress. Without further ado, I hand the reins over to you, Ms. Walker.
Thank you so much for having me here, and thank you for that warm welcome. I'm so excited to be here. There's a lot of things that we want to just be able to talk about and just be able to learn about the holidays and stress, give you some ideas. Some things we might already know, some things are reminders and stuff like that. So let me get started, and I really appreciate you having me here. I'm very excited. So let me just share my screen. Okay. All right. Okay. So as we mentioned before, we're going to tell you about how to cope in the holidays with stress. So as we mentioned before, the National Alliance on Mental Illness is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization. It was started in 1979, and basically it started with two mothers that had children that were dealing with mental health issues and said, well, we need to start doing something here. We need to figure out how we're going to get support for ourselves and support for our children, and to also educate people. So from that, it started now that we have over 60 local affiliates in 49 states across the nation. And that's to work in your community to raise awareness and provide support and education that wasn't previously available. So most of our people that do a lot of our work are volunteers. A lot of the people have someone with lived experience with mental health. So that's how we get a lot of our stuff done, is just through people. And so NAMI New Jersey is a statewide organization. We are in 19 of the 21 counties. The only reason why we're only in 19 is because we paired up Cape May and Atlantic County. It's a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness. We do education programs. We have a program called Family to Family, where people who have a family member teach the class for other people that have family members with mental illness. We do advocacy. We go to Trenton. We go to DC, and we do advocacy on the local level too, if someone needs support. And we do public awareness programs. We do outreaches. We do a lot of things that are like health fairs. We go to churches. We go to schools. So we're out in the community in different areas so we can just get that information out. We want to teach people about mental illness. We often hear about what different illnesses are, and we don't actually know exactly sometimes what it could look like. So we try to give education about that. And then we want to confront stigma so people can get that information. So we'll be able to start that dialogue and give the language for people to be able to just understand what's going on with themselves or their relatives. And we also promote research into the causes, treatment, and recovery of mental health conditions. So we are very busy here. And so how we got started in 1985, it was a group of concerned family members again who started NAMI in New Jersey. I believe it started in Burlington County, and that is still in conjunction today. It's NAMI FACE in Burlington. And after the time when it was deinstitutionalization, when people were having the mental illness, they were actually being put back out into public. So we just decided to get that information out to help let that transition be a little bit helpful for our family members. So that was the mutual support. So we have our family support groups, education programs. We're in the schools, like we educate the educators, we educate the children, and then empowerment, just giving us the language and just to know that there are other people out there that are going through the same thing. We also advocated, like I said before, when we're in Trenton, we're in DC, and we're advocating on local levels in agencies for people that are under the care of doctors and stuff. We advocate on their behalf as well. And we give the people who have a family member the language and the ability and empowerment to be able to just say to them, okay, you know, we have the language now, you have the information, you guys can go out and advocate for yourselves too. So we are still out there. We've been around for a very long time, and we're just continuing to do all the work in the community. So Act Now started. We are one of 4 multicultural groups. And the interesting thing about that is that we are the only NAMI in the United States that has a multicultural program. So we were the youngest. We started in 2006. The other 3 groups got started. And so it's NAMI in Espanol, where they basically have Spanish programs in Spanish. And then we have CAMHOC, which is in Mandarin and Cantonese. So they have their support groups in Mandarin. And then we have SAMHAJ, which are Southeast Asian. So that's India, Pakistan, and those communities. So we started in 2006. And we started basically around the table, around, just fellowshipping and stuff to be able to talk about how are we going to get the information out to the African-American community. We have all the other groups here. And so for over 17 years now, we've been around in NAMI, New Jersey. So it's very great that New Jersey has started and continued this, initiative. And hopefully we can kind of spread it throughout the nation so we can be able to have a more focus towards our communities. So Act Now, our 4 major goals are to increase awareness within the Black community and discuss that anyone can be affected by mental illness and is treatable. That means anyone from social economical backgrounds. It doesn't matter if you're rich, you're poor, if you're in rural areas, in the city, it's an issue. We help African-American individuals and families affected by mental illness establish local help groups, and they can learn coping skills through sharing with people with similar experiences. So basically, most of our support groups are ran by someone who has a family member with mental illness. We give them like I believe it's like a weekend, and we basically give them the information and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We give them a binder. We go through all the different illnesses. We have doctors come in to talk about different illnesses, medications, and stuff. So we're trying to get that information and be able to pass it along to people who are going through something similar to we are. We provide mental health services to African-American families and individuals. A lot of times when we get our families that come into our support groups, we're looking for someone who has a background like we are, that knows our culture, that knows that it's important that we have someone that we can relate to that looks like us, that has been through different experiences. And then we help mental health professionals in New Jersey to be aware of and sensitive to African-American cultural and mental health issues. And we help them understand that there are unique struggles that we deal with and our families face when seeking services. For example, we just recently did a conference. And with that conference, we were able to tell people, okay, this is what, implicit bias does when we're on the workforce. And this is what happens when, we're trying to tell someone from a different culture what we're going through. And just to give people that information to be able to seek guidance and just to get more help. And so when I say self-help services, as I was mentioning before, all of our support groups are run by someone with a mental illness. That's our connections group, or someone with a family member with mental illness. And basically with these groups, it's basically we'll do 2 hours. So the first hour is we'll have a professional come in. We've had chief of police to come in. What happens when our family member gets that call left out? You know, if we have to have law enforcement come out to help our relatives. So they basically told us this is what happens when we get the call. This is what they go through. So it was very interesting to have that. We talk about with educators. We've had Black social workers come in, Black psychiatrists come in to see what exactly is happening in our schools with mental health. Information and referral services. We try to find and have a database of different psychiatrists, different social workers, therapists, counselors that are African American, because that's in need. And then, like I said, professional outreach. So, like we said, we go out to churches, we go out to just different areas where we know that there are going to be someone that's dealing with mental health issues. Sharing Hope is a community conversation. It's an interactive conversation. So basically, in the past, we've done different topics. So our last topic was how do we deal with everything that's been going on in the news? Like, how do we deal with racism on a regular basis? For Social Worker Month, we had Black social workers come in and talk about what are their experiences about being in the workforce as Black social workers in schools, in case management areas and stuff like that. So that is a national initiative, Sharing Hope. We're going to start getting it back up again. We've also done stuff with mental health courts. We don't have mental health courts in New Jersey, but we were talking about what they look like across the nation and how one of a family member might come in. What does that look like if they come in and have committed a crime? Do we do it as a, do they have a criminal support, or do they have it as, okay, mental health support? So we're trying to figure out how to navigate that. So that's a little bit of background about NAMI and Act Now. So we're going to just talk about stress now, and then we're going to just go down about what stress is, how to get coping skills for it, and then how we can talk about how it affects our family members and ourselves around the holiday. So what is stress? Stress is defined as a constraining force or influence, a physical, chemical, or emotional factor that causes bodily or mental tension, and then may be a factor in disease causation. Now, also, we do have things that are joyful stress in our lives, like someone getting married, someone getting a new job, someone having a new baby come in. So those are different stressors, but it affects our body in a different way. So we're going to talk about signs of stress. So physically, a lot of times when people have like ongoing headaches and stuff, and they don't know exactly where they're coming from, and then digestive problems, acid reflux or something like that. And it's just a continuing pervasive kind of thing going on. And we're kind of like, well, what's going on? Where is this coming from? It could be because someone could be stressed and they're not dealing with it. So it's kind of psychosomatic that it comes out physically. Sleeping disturbances. We all know, we're staying up late at night. We have insomnia. We're waking up early and then can't get back to sleep. Pains that don't have a physical cause. Like we didn't bruise ourselves, but we're still having that pain somewhere. So we're like, where's that coming from? And then we always see it with appetite changes. And that could be on both ends. It could be we're eating a lot more when we're not hungry, or we just don't have an appetite anymore. So those are physical signs of stress. Fatigue. We all know that we're very busy, but when it becomes chronic and we can't actually function, then that could be something that's a sign of stress. And then there's some people with skin problems. They break out in hives and rashes and stuff like that, and they don't have a cause for it. It could be stress. There's been times where people have come into like the support group that I run, and they might have like their eye is just, constantly twitching. And it's basically, they know, okay, I must be going through something stressful. So they kind of see that on their bodies. So when we say social and behavioral, we kind of go back to the thing about eating compulsively. It's basically we have to eat to try to, I guess, soothe whatever it is that's going on. repetitive ideas. We start ruminating over things. We start thinking of things over again. And we're like, oh my goodness, did I do the right thing? If I don't do this, and it's just kind of like that compounding stress. Tardiness. When we talk about being tardiness, it's just being late, not being able to understand that if something happens stressful, that might make us leave our ability to just be able to get things done. And that's where we kind of go into the loss of productivity. We're at work and we're just there. And I found a word for it now. It's called presentism. So basically, you're actually at work physically, but you're not there mentally, and you're not there just basically bought into it. And that's on the other end is absenteeism. You're not going to show up to work if you're having a whole bunch of stress. And then, as we mentioned before, an increase in eating is the self-soothing. So it could be the smoking, drinking, and drug use. Finding that outlet to get relief from the stress. Psychological and emotional, increased moodiness. Things that didn't really bother you before, it's starting to bother you now, and it's increased moodiness. You could be feeling good one day, and then the next you're feeling very upset over something that wasn't even a problem before. You're kind of isolating yourself, withdrawing from others. You want to be by yourself. You don't want to just see people that you normally see on a daily basis. And then difficulty concentrating and restlessness. You can't sit still. You can't focus. And then you realize that, stuff isn't getting done because you're just constantly thinking about something and just can't, focus on things. Loss of memory. It could be something as simple as you're always misplacing your keys because you're stressed to be able to get out somewhere, and you keep, just things like that, just losing your keys or something. And then, someone could just say, I was talking to you about this, and then you can't remember it. It could be because you're over a lot of stress. And crying and overly sensitive. You could be upset about things, and that's normal. But when you're overly sensitive to things, like we were talking about before, that things that didn't bother you before, it's just around that stressful situation, you're just crying. Angered easily. This could be kind of going back into like the moodiness, like you're fine one time and then you're just angry all the time. Difficulty making decisions because you're stressed about things. You don't want to make the wrong decision. You don't want to say, if I make this decision, this is what's going to happen. And it's not even the case, but you're having that worry about it. And then easily annoyed and irritable, agitated. So those are the things that are kind of like psychological and emotional. So after I said all of this, this is why I kind of went over it, because you want to identify the symptoms. Stress manifests itself in people differently. Everybody doesn't go through stress the same way. So with those few slides that I just showed, you can identify when you're in a stressful situation, what happens. Is it that you don't eat? Is it that, your eye might start twitching, or you have like pains that you don't know what you're dealing with? Prioritize your stressors. There are some things that you can't help. So then you're going to be able to just figure out, okay, is this going to matter in 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years from now? So you prioritize what you can actually deal with. When I say past coping, it's like, what have you done before when you got stressed? Is it that you started exercising, or has it that you realized that, what, I need to just read, or I need to journal? A lot of just different things. What have you done to basically, cope with your stress? Is it that I might up a few more times to go to my therapist? I see them one time a week, maybe 2 if I'm going through a stressful situation. And then when I say available solutions, this is what I'm talking about. Like, what have you done before? And this is something interesting. When you talk about the 4 A's of stress management, when something's stressful, if you want to avoid it, that's a good way, because it is possible to escape some of the minor stressors that tend to trouble people. You basically can take control of it. Say if you are going in traffic, this one-way traffic, you avoid that stressor by going a different way. Something simple as that. A lot of times it's kind of cliched to saying no. If you know that this situation is going to be stressful for you, if you can say no. And that's always something that we, kind of push, and it's okay to do that. And then if it's someone or something, and you know that you're going to get stressful from it, create boundaries and basically create space between you and that stressor. So if you know if somebody's going to bother you, you can avoid them and you can create that space. When I say alter, you want to communicate clearly with people to be able to say, okay, this is all I can do. This is stressing me out. I can't do any more than that. A lot of things that work well is I statements. I feel stressed when you tell me I have to do this, and I've already told you that I can't do this anymore. Can we please find a different solution for that? You're not blaming anybody. You're telling someone your boundaries and what you can do. And you have to be able to have that language to be able to protect yourself and your boundaries. And then, you can tell them in advance, I only have 5 minutes to talk about this if this is something stressful for you. So that's what we say about alter. When I say accept it, this is something that, it might be just something that's going to be stressful. So this is when you accept it, you say, okay, maybe this isn't going to change, but you know what? I could talk to my therapist about it. I could call my friend when I'm in this situation. I could get a cup of coffee and just sit down for 5 minutes to be able to just decompress when it is something that you can't really change. And then you could forgive yourself that, this might be stressful and I can't deal with it. I have to be okay with it. And then forgive others as well. When I say adapt to it, you got to sometimes change your standards and expectations of a stressful situation that it can maybe help you cope with it. A lot of times we don't want to strive for perfection. We want to make reasonable substitutes throughout your daily life. So that's how you can kind of adapt it. When we're talking about the holidays, we'll get into this a little bit more. We usually have a nice big dinner and stuff like that. Maybe this might be a time that we might kind of scale it down a little bit. When we have a stressful situation, we have to try to stop ourselves from kind of replaying it over, like, oh, what could I have done better? How can I have done this? And replaying it to the point where it's kind of taking over everything. So we want to be able to just adapt it so you can learn from it, but don't let it overtake all the rest of your life. And then, you can also focus on positive things, that positive thinking that helps. So those are kind of the few things that you could do. And then also, if you don't have all the answers yourself, you can go to a support team. We have plenty of family and friends. We have our church groups. There are nurses, social workers, psychiatrists, psychologists, doctors, NAMI, and then there's an intensive family support services. That's basically a support that has respite services for someone who has a family member with mental health issues. And you could basically ask them to say, you know what, on this day, can you take my relative to be able to give me a little bit of time to rest myself? And then that also gives education services, education on different illnesses, different coping mechanisms as well. And then they do they can come to your house, and they can also, you could come to the office, and they basically give you information on how to deal with your relative who has a mental illness. So basically, when I ask, what do the holidays mean to you? You can basically just kind of think about it, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But a lot of times when we think about the holidays, we think about a lot of things. We talk about, our Christmas trees. We talk about different areas that, we have Kwanzaa, we have different New Year's holidays and everything like that. And, for our Jewish brothers and sisters, we have Hanukkah as well. And then we have just so many different holidays and stuff like that. And then we have the traditions that go along with it. We have big dinners sometimes. We have everything that we have to, just overlook. So why do we get stressed around the holidays? So we have pressure to make the holidays special. We always think, when we think back to our childhood and everything like that, is that we have to make it special for them, and we have to make it special for ourselves. So then we have financial obligations. Everything has gone up, and we understand how stressful things could be financially. Overwhelming media exposure. It seems like as soon as Halloween is over, here we come with Thanksgiving, here we come with Christmas. And it seems like just a constant holiday schedule in the stores, on the TV and everything. So it's almost like we can't get away with it because it's like we open up our phone is telling us, oh, there's a Black Friday sale here and stuff like that. And you're feeling like, oh my goodness, I'm missing out on something. And then when we talk about high expectations, we have people say, oh, we had that holiday last year. Oh my goodness, it was so many good things. We had food, we had good gifts and everything. And then sometimes we get that pressure to try to recreate what we've had. Time limitations. It seems like we are just more busier than ever. And it just seems like it's very hard to be able to fit everything in with our daily lives, be it work, be it family, be it our friends. And then we have to stick in a holiday or two after that as well. It's a lot of information, a lot of things that we have to do to try to make the holidays special. And then we always have the pressure to stick with traditions. Oh, well, I know grandmom did this, and I know granddad did this, and aunt did this, and uncle did this. So, we want to keep our traditions because it's a part of our culture. But sometimes if we can't measure up to that, we feel like we've done something wrong. And so we want to be able to just look at it a different way. So when I say remember to maintain your stress year round, when we get down to the holidays, basically, we know that they're coming. They're not going to really go different each time of the year. We know Thanksgiving is going to be that Thursday. We know Christmas is the 25th. We know that Valentine's Day is the 14th. So we know that there are different holidays. So we know when it's coming. So we have to kind of keep during the year how our stress, check in with ourselves a lot, journal a lot, to just kind of keep yourself cognizant of what's going on. Don't try to do everything and delegate some tasks. Basically, there's a lot of stuff when people are coming to your house, you want to make sure that everything is, perfect, as we say. But we got to understand that our family are coming with us. So we got to be able to say, oh, you know what, can you cook this? Or, can you help me clean this or something? So giving little tasks here and there kind of helps. Tap into your support systems. Know that if you do have some sort of like sadness during the holidays, there is something called seasonal affective disorder. Basically, it's when the days get shorter, basically, and you kind of go slow down and you get depressed and everything. So know if that's coming for you, know your support system, know that you have to reach out to your doctor or your therapist to say, it's that time of year again. Do I need extra talk therapy? Do I need medication? Do I need my light box or something like that? And then keep things in moderation. This kind of goes with the with the tradition thing. If anything that kind of came out from COVID, it's basically we couldn't do everything like we wanted to do before. We couldn't have people over. And, when people were graduating and stuff like that, we had to do like drive-bys or something. So that kind of made us kind of step back a lot from our traditions and trying to keep things small. And then also when I say plan ahead and schedule, some people are already cooking for Christmas and they're going to put their stuff in the freezer or something. So they are planning ahead, like what the menu is going to be. So little things like that helps you along the way. So now we're going to focus on when we have a relative with mental illness. It's a little bit different when we're dealing with someone with lived experience or a mental illness. So when I say mental illness, this is what I'm basically talking about. It's a medical condition that can impact a person's thinking or mood and may affect his ability to relate to others and function on a daily basis. Each person will have different experiences, even people with the same diagnosis. Schizophrenia doesn't look the same in everybody, but it does have like those core things that are the same. Recovery, including meeting roles in social life, school, and work is possible, especially when you start treatment early and play a strong role in your own recovery process. A mental health condition isn't the result of one event. Research suggests multiple overlapping causes: genetics, environment, lifestyle influence, and whether someone develops a mental condition. So that could be it. A stressful job or home life makes some people more susceptible, as do traumatic life experiences as being a victim as a crime. Biochemical processes and circuits and basic brain structure may play a role as well. So when I click on this, it'll basically tell us like the different mental health conditions. So as I was mentioning before, we know some of the names and everything, and this is the National NAMI website. And so, we go into the anxiety disorders, ADHD, bipolar, borderline depression, and the list goes on. So, when we have someone that is diagnosed with this, these are the actual illnesses that we're doing. And if you do click on this website, we do have the slides for you later on. And then you can go to this website, click on what they could possibly be, like treatment, support, discussion groups. So that's a little bit with that to be able to help you out with that. So now that we kind of know what mental illness is, and then we've talked about stress, let's bring it together. So the reason for stress with our relatives that have mental health is high expectations, basically. We want to be able to share it with everybody, but sometimes we can't do that with someone with a mental illness because it's overwhelming sometimes. It's a lot of lights, it's a lot of people, it's a lot of overstimulation a lot of times. And this is what I'm talking about, large groups. Painful reminders. Basically, there could be someone pre-illness and after illness, and someone could, say to them, "Oh, I remember when you used to, cook this whole meal and everything." And then they realize that they can't do that anymore because they might have a limitation with their mental illness. So that sometimes that's difficult. And then self-disclosure. Sometimes some people are wondering, "Oh, well, what's wrong with them?" And then some people do have to actually say, I've dealt with this, I've been depressed or something. And sometimes that's painful to keep having to say it to their relatives. And then comparing themselves to others. People that are on like the same age group or something, if the mental illness hit them at a certain time, their relatives might have a different outcome with them, even though they're the same age and stuff like that. So they feel as if, oh my goodness, I could be in this position, but I can't be in that position because I'm kind of having difficulties with my mental illness. So when I say, what can the caregiver do? You can discuss plans in advance with your relative. So you can basically say, okay, this is what the day is going to look like. This is what the holiday is going to look like. We're going to decorate it this time. If you want to be involved in it, you most certainly can. If you're not, that's okay. And then that's can acknowledge your relatives' feelings too. Acknowledge that, they may not want to do all this or they want to be involved in everything. So we got to have that open dialogue and discussion to say, what can you do and what can't you do? And then also keep in mind when we were talking a few slides back about your boundaries, what do you want to be able to have come out of this thing? And you keep your expectations realistic. Know what their limitations are. And this is when we talk about keeping the dialogue open, keeping communication open, acknowledging your relatives' feelings and your feelings in itself. So then you can let your relatives make choices and support them, and then accept your relatives' boundaries and limits. So all of this stuff we're talking about are relatives, but this is also stuff that you could do as being your caregiver. And you can help your relatives with their stress as well. When you're going through stress, realize for them, okay, we know what stress looks like, so we'll deal with that. Create new traditions and modify old ones. So basically, like I said before, when we were dealing with COVID, we've had so many traditions that kind of had to go by the wayside because we couldn't get together and celebrate holidays like we used to. So now, we had a tradition that everybody trimmed a tree at one time. Now we could just say, you know what, maybe we'll just do this by ourselves, keep it isolated and just together with the immediate family. So that could kind of take the stress away from you and your relative. Stay flexible. We always know that there's things that are going to come up. If something came up and we're like, okay, we can't deal with that, we're going to have to stay flexible with it. Create a safe zone for your relatives. When we say a safe zone, that could be a room, that could be a corner of the room, that could be their favorite couch or something like that. Or you could say, you know what, at this time you could go for a walk or something like that. Just to be able to keep that space for your relatives to know that if things are getting so overwhelming for them, they can go there. Keep things simple and consistent. Sometimes routines help people a lot. So if you keep it simple and consistent and that routine going, it does help sometimes. And then keep company informed. If your relative says, you know what, it's okay to tell people that I'm dealing with schizophrenia or I have bipolar. Keep your company informed. So if something happens, then they don't have to keep asking questions about things. And then stay educated, like understand, there are many books, websites, many agencies that we can just give you information and stuff like that, and stay educated. And then when we talk about taking care of yourselves, it's okay to feel angry, upset, and sad. But what's important is how you use these feelings. Like we want to be able to channel them in a way that's positive and just keeping within our boundaries and our relatives' boundaries and stuff. And then stay physically in good health with exercise, eat right, and go to the doctors. We go to the doctors annually. Sometimes it might be okay to go to your mental health professional annually just to see where you are and stuff like that. As I mentioned before, continue educating yourself just so you just have that idea of, what things are happening. There's new things that are going on. And then accept your limits, accept that you can't do everything, and accept that your relative can't do everything, and know what your boundaries are, and keep your communication open. And then remember to set aside time for yourself that's not illness related. We don't always want to think about, oh, okay, well, our relatives has this, and I have depression, and because if we think about it with physical illnesses, we don't always want to talk about, I have high blood pressure, all the time. So set aside time that's not illness related, and then keep a life of your own. You have to understand that, your relative is your relative, but you have your own life. You have your own hobbies. You have your own interests and stuff. And remember that it's okay, to go out there. When I have people in my support group, sometimes they're hesitant to go on a cruise or something, or to go, on a vacation and stuff, because they've been in that caregiver role so much. But when somebody says, you know what, I'll help you with your relative while you guys are gone, they feel guilty of taking that step out to go on like vacation or something. So, when you had your hobbies before, if you want to get back to them, find a way to make that, your own, to keep it. Give support to others in situations similar to yours. So if someone has a relative with mental health issues, you can give the support to others. And that's how come we have a lot of our support groups are run by someone with a mental illness or someone who has a family member with mental illness. It kind of help them process it a little bit better. Ask for help. It is okay to ask for help. I know culturally we just do everything. We say, okay, we're just going to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, but it's okay to ask for help a lot of times. And, I always say that, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So you never know, if you ask, then you will get the no or the yes. But if you don't ask, it's always no. So set boundaries and limits with a relative if needed. If your relative is upset about something and they say, well, you know what, I'm not going to do this, or I can't do this, then you have to say, okay, if you're not going to do this, then we have to come to a agreement or some sort of negotiation to figure out what we can do here. And let those boundaries and limits be clear, just to say, you know what, maybe I can't do this. I only have, a few minutes to talk about this. So that's what happens a lot of times when we have to set our boundaries and keep that communication. So basically this is our main number, the extension here. And we have our Act Now. This is our general one. And if you want to reach out to me personally, this is my personal email address. And then the NAMI New Jersey website, that gets a lot of information. It tells you different about our programs and everything. And then we also have a Facebook that is specifically an Act Now, and an Instagram page. And then if you want to learn more about our multicultural programs and our Act Now, it'll tell you everything like that. So that is it for this. And then these are just some of the references that I use. So if you want to look on different websites, different books, I can send that out to you as well. Thank you for your time, guys.
Okay, thank you, thank you. We did have a few questions come through the chat. So one of the first questions was, do you partner with the Division of Behavioral Health via DCF? Now, I'm hoping you know what DCF is, because you're on mute.
It's the Division of Children and Family Services, I think,
Okay.
is through the state. I believe it used to be called DIFUS when I was younger, way far back in the day. So
Okay. So
I
it is.
think sometimes we'll have people that come into the support group that have DCF um you know cases or something. I think if I'm remembering, we probably done presentations with them before. We've done stuff with the state of New Jersey. We've had the Division of Civil Rights come out and they presented at our conference. So we do work with the state of New Jersey a lot. Um, Probably more focused on the children. We do have a few school-based programs. So a lot of times when we do have some things that come up, we do kind of say, okay, there's a family support organization, and we'll kind of direct people there and stuff. I don't know if that answers the question, but I don't know.
Well, if it didn't answer your question, you can retype a clearer question.
Okay.
The next question is, grief is also a trigger for many during the holidays. Are there strategies you can suggest for people who may have lost a close family member and missing them during the holidays?
Yeah. Grief is always difficult around the holidays because um we just want our relative to, kind of still be there. And if they were the patriarch or the matriarch of the family, it's difficult because they're not there now. I think a lot of times as with anything, is to kind of keep the dialogue open about, the relative. We don't want to, forget about them, but then in the same breath, we don't want to kind of ruminate on the relative and stuff like that. Something as simple as, saying, oh, I remember when Uncle Bob was here, and just having those memories to be able to talk to people about it helps. And then depending on when people are going through stages of grief and everything, to know where they're at, to be able to say, okay, if you're grieving, are you in the denial stage or something like that, to be able to, you know, meet that person where they are, to be able to give them the strategies to be able to get through that. There's been times where we had people in our group, the family member died by suicide or something, and it's difficult for them to be able to talk about the holidays and stuff. So we just kind of keep it open for them to be able to just talk about it, and we kind of just follow their lead. Basically, if they want to talk about their relative, okay, we're going to talk about their relative. If they don't, we just kind of let that go. So it's just very difficult to just have that time to be able to just to be able to work through that grief process and stuff. But it seems to hit a lot harder during the holidays. So yeah, I don't know if that helped as well.
You spoke a lot about the physical signs of stress, and the physical signs of stress are the physical signs for a lot of other illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
When do you suggest someone seek medical attention for their physical signs, like for their headache or, the eye twitching or things of that sort? When should someone seek medical care?
Yeah, I'm not really conservative with that. It's like, your body. So I know if it's more than like a week or two, I'm in the doctor's office. So I'm really on there. And a lot of times, people, like I say, know their bodies. Like if it's something that is just chronic and it's kind of affecting their quality of life, I think that's basically the time to go. I would say sooner than later, because it could be something actually physically and not psychosomatic. So I say, as soon as you feel as though that this is getting in the way of your quality of life and your day to day, I say go as soon as you can.
Okay. Okay, that's a good one. You talked a lot about creating boundaries and limits. But
Mhm.
what if you have someone, good friend of yours, colleague, who you think is stressed but is in denial? They're snappy at work or whatever. Is there a way you suggest you talk to them, or how can you offer your help without being told to go mind your business,
Right,
basically?
right. It's difficult. Um, I think that's where the I statements come in. They're very a way not to like kind of like accuse people or kind of like blame. Um, you can basically kind of use that strategy like, oh, I notice, when you're talking to the boss, or I notice when you're on this project, or I notice that, this is going on. Um, I feel, upset when you're like this. I remember you kind of were like this before. You want to talk about it, and maybe they just need someone to just kind of sit there and say, "Oh, do you want to talk about it?" And it might help. If someone's kind of being resistant to it, um, you can. It depends on how your relationship is to kind of say, "Okay, I realize you're being resistant, and I feel like I'm just trying to help. If you don't want to talk about it now, know that I'm here, and know that I'm able to help kind of guide you in the direction. Let me know when you're ready to talk about it. Here's my number. Or you know what? I've been kind of feeling the same way. I've started coming to this counselor. Here's their number. You might want to reach out to them. Those are kind of different strategies that doesn't make it seem too accusatory or like you're blaming them, or you're kind of coming at them.
Mhm.
It kind of may open up the dialogue, and then sometimes they don't want to talk about it or they don't want help. Then that's when you have to unfortunately cut your losses sometimes and say, you know what, when they're ready, I'll be here for them.
Okay. Um, I was just curious also, in that you had a slide that said, I guess the thing that triggered your thought was to maintain your stress throughout the year. And you talked about the different dates and stuff like that. Do you mean, I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know,
Okay.
I didn't really get that point you were making. So if you can
Okay.
elaborate a little bit on how is that a coping mechanism?
Okay, so that's where you can start planning for things. So
Okay.
when you know that New Year's is coming every, December 31st and every first of the year, know if you're going to be able to know if you're going to feel some type of way about that. Or like you have a party or something. So you have to start taking those self-care measures before those
Mm,
times.
okay.
So be it that you might take a vacation, that's your self-care. You might go to the spa, that's your self-care. You might go to your therapist a little bit more, that's like your self-care. Knowing what is stressful throughout the year for you, because some people, the holidays is no problem, they just go through it without any problems. But then their stressor might be 4th of July or something like that. It's hot outside, I don't want to be out here cooking or something like that. So there's their planning and their strategies to make things a little bit easier for them looks a little different as someone with Christmas or something like that. So I don't know if that kind of helps, like kind of just
Yeah.
maintaining
Okay.
it, through the
Okay.
year.
So plan better, basically.
Yeah, yeah, plan better. And then a plan is also not to do anything. To say, this year I was really stressed out about Christmas, or I was really stressed out about Valentine's Day. I'm not going to do anything this year. So you can plan to do nothing as well. And that saves, some of your wellness in that way too.
Okay. There's one more question in the chat. It says, curious about what your experience has been with law enforcement in New Jersey as it relates to their training and response to persons in a mental health crisis.
Okay. I could basically look at it a few ways. So a lot of municipalities in New Jersey are trying to start something. It's called a CIT program. So it's crisis intervention training for the police officers. So a lot of times what they do, and I've done them a few this year, is that when they have the people come in, it's like a 7 day, no, 5 days, 40 hours. And basically they have police officers, sometimes they'll have like social workers, and they'll come in to like the police academy, for lack of a better word, and they'll learn everything about policing. And so what NAMI did is that we had some of our family members come out and talk about their family members dealing with a police incident, and then we had a cultural part of it. I did the cultural part, and basically told them, okay, this is what culturally African Americans are. And then we told them, different instances. Like some people were talking about, my relative, got upset one time and started, throwing my clothes out the house. They started threatening me. And so basically, we told them what happened when a CIT police officer came out. They de-escalated the situation and got them in a safe space so they weren't hurting themselves or hurting property and their family member. So a lot of times when the police come out, if your family member is having a crisis, you can ask if that municipality has a CIT trained officer to come out. So they're equipped with mental health information to basically de-escalate. And if need be, they won't take their relative out and then take them in police custody. They might take them to like the screening center to get help, or they de-escalated enough that the relative could stay home. So basically they do a lot of those throughout like different counties and stuff. I've done one in Scotch Plains before, Middlesex County, and it's just a panel. So since we have like the 4 different multicultural groups, it was a representative from each group, and they talked about their culture. They talked about if they had any incidents with the police coming out to their house with their relative with a mental illness, and how the police officers dealt with it. And then we got feedback from the officers to say, how they feel about the public and their perception of how they police. So that's, I don't know if that helps, but yeah.
Oh, that was good. Okay, well, it's 8:02, so we're gonna wrap up. I just have one more question. What is one thing you want people to take away from this seminar tonight?
Oh, wow. I think what I want them to take away is just be okay with learning how to keep your boundaries up. A lot of times we let things into our personal space and it, upsets us or something like that. So I just want people to be able to just be comfortable in, what they value and what they hold dear, like that self-care component of it. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because that's most important. So I hope that some of the tips and stuff like that, we're able to give them strategies on how to, keep their quality of life up when it comes to dealing with stress in the holidays.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Ms. Walker. I really appreciate it. For all of those who attended, you will be receiving a survey afters. Please fill it out. We want to be able to present more informative programs such as this for the public. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for just letting me in your space and everything. It was very
Yes,
pleasurable.
yes. Yeah, some of the comments were
appreciate
that they were very informative, that this was very informative, great recommendations, great information. Everyone really enjoyed it. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so much, ladies. Have a good evening and have a happy holiday season.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.